This is Pokemon Infinite Fusion, the fan game with over 251,000 different Pokemon combinations. And we're here today to see if we can beat a hardcore randomized Nuzlocke using only starter Pokemon. That means if a Pokemon faints, it's considered dead. The level cap is the next leader's ace. No active items can be used in battle, and we play the games on set mode. If you like the video, the sound of my voice, and this isn't your first time here, you should definitely consider hitting that subscribe button. Over 70% of the people that watch my videos aren't subscribed to the channel. And you should also tickle that like button down below. No, you want to. In Infinite Fusion's most recent update, the Kalos starters were added into the game, which means we have 5 different generations of starter Pokemon to choose from in addition to Pikachu and Eevee. So every fusion that we use in this run has to be comprised of one of those 17 Pokemon. Once we fuse up a Pokemon with a fusion partner, we cannot unfuse it. So we need to choose our partners carefully. But without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off in Professor Oak's lab, our starter choices are Galspin, Seal, and Vulpix. And as much as I prefer to get a free fusion, Chestnut doesn't have a custom fusion with either Ninetales or Dugong, so we'll take our Chespin here and fuse it up later, which means Rando is going to be taking Vulpix along with Seal. And now it's time for us to take on Rando in our first ever rival battle. Rando starts off by sending in Vool, who is adorable, and we're going to be sending in Chespin. Going for a vine where we get a decent hit off as he goes for 2 growls. And it's just going to keep on growling on us, and I'm wondering if it has anything to hit us with as it changes up going for a tail whip. And with that, we take it down, defeating Rando. So let's see what friends we can capture before we face off against Brock. Starting off on Route 1, we're going to grab a Luxio. On 22, a Nidoran Male. In the Pokemon, our Love Disc has been randomized into... oh, Love Disc. I guess there's nothing that bad. On Route 2, we get a Wooper. In the Secret Garden, we get a Melodic. In the Secret Garden, we can grab ourselves a Magikarp. In the Viridian Forest, we get a Jangmo. And on Route 3, we get a Kingler. For our first fusion pair, we are going to take our Cyndaquil and fuse it up with Wooper to get ourselves Cinnabar. And for our second Pokemon, we're going to take Jangmo and fuse it up with Pikachu to get us Pikamo. And now it's time for us to take on Brock and his fighty fight boys. Brock starts off by sending in a Skipperogue, and we send in Cinnabar. And this thing is adorable, but it is very, very susceptible to fire and goes down with 1 critical hit, which leads into Bichoke. And by golly, I don't want to be choked by that thing as it goes for a tackle, doing a massive amount of damage, and we go for a mud shot, lowering its accuracy. After that, we're going to go for an Ember, and I don't get the burn off as a tackle comes in, activating my berry. We're then going to go for another Ember, bringing this thing down quite low as it goes for another tackle. I'm then going to swap out and then send in Pikamo instead as another tackle comes in. We're then going to outspeed with a Thunder Shock, bringing him way down into the red as a tackle activates our berry. And with a quick attack, we take down Bichoke, defeating Brock. While fighting our way across Route 3, Cinnabar is going to ascend for the first time into Quipper. Or is it Quipper? I like Quipper. And our Magikarp's been randomized into a Kakuna. Outside of Mount Moon, we run into Nurse Joy, tending to this wounded Geodude. When out of nowhere comes Brock and his Bichoke. Brock has the Bichoke pick up the Geodude and nuzzle him deep. Brock has the Bichoke take the Geodude into his loving embrace and give him a little cuddle, which miraculously heals the Geodude back to full health. And Nurse Joy sees that her job is done here and leaves. In Mount Moon, we're going to grab our Larvesta. At the back of Mount Moon, we run into Team Rocket doing God knows what. And upon further inspection, it appears that they're attempting some sort of triple fusion. And while that sounds super cool, it's gotta be evil, because Team Rocket. And after the Rocket Grunge slaps the 3 Rocket starters down on the panel, they press the button on the machine. And when the triple fusion machine explodes, all 3 Rocket starters turn into some sort of weird sentient goo. And that, ladies and gentlemen, are how Grimer are born. But Giovanni doesn't want a Grimer, he's already got 6 of them, so he and the rest of Team Rocket leave, leaving all their equipment behind, because that's the most evil thing of all. Over on Route 4, we're going to grab a Mawile. Before facing off against Rando, we're going to give Eevee a Moonstone to evolve it into an Umbreon. And we're then gonna fuse it up with Kingler to get ourselves a surprisingly effective Umbler. We're then gonna fuse up Quilladin with Gyarados to get ourselves this adorable little Gyaraladin. And finally, Quipper is going to ascend as well, becoming Why, Sire. We run into Rando over on Nugget Bridge, where it turns out that he just got his second badge. And he's here to brag to us that he has twice as many badges as we do. But I haven't even tried to go to the gym yet, you jerk. Rando starts up by sending in a Fraxlop, and we send in Bean. And I have got to say that this dude's mustache is a 10 out of 10, and after we go for a Mud Bomb, we do about 50% as he goes for a Dual Chop. After that, we go ahead and throw another big ol' Mud Pie at this guy, taking down the mustache. Next up comes Dig Choke. And what is with everybody's obsession with choking? And a Water Gun's gonna bring this down wicked low as he goes for a Magnitude, scoring an 8, destroying Bean. No! So, this guy better get ready for the clamps. He uses the Super Potion to heal back up to full, and we can go for a Bubble Beam, grabbing ourselves the Yoko, which is going to lead into Volgong, who goes for a Quick Attack right away, and we can go for another Bubble Beam, which is going to be neutral. Oh, just kidding, he's Ice type, so it's super effective. And one more Bubble Beam takes down Volgong. Finally, Fegon comes in, and I see exactly why he was hiding this thing from me, and after we confuse it, it goes for an Agility. After that, I'm going to go for a Quick Attack, doing just about 50%, and then he punches himself in the face to help finish the job off. And after he punches himself in the face one more time, we can go for a Pursuit, KOing Fegon, and I cannot believe we lost our first Pokemon. Over on Route 24, we grab an Axew. Over on the Cerulean Cave, we head over to Bill's lab, where he's experimenting with human Pokemon fusion, and it turns out it works. But he didn't want to be the rock normal type Bidon. He wanted to be the ground normal type Rybill. So we head over to his laptop and reverse the fusion. And even though he ditched the rock typing, he's still rocking solid rock, if you know what I mean. His ability, obviously. And now it's time for us to take on Misty and her creepy, crawly bug Pokemon. Misty starts off by sending in Nindos, and we send in Bolt Break. Who's going to go for an Absorb right away, and we're going to go for a Dragon Tail, knocking it out, and then sending in her Ace Parrot, who is adorable. And going for a Quick Attack, we do some chip damage as it goes for an Absorb. And Pikachu is a terrible person to take care of both of these, so we're going to swap out, sending in Clamps as he goes for a Poison Powder. Fortunately, this thing is rocking dry skin, so when we go for a Bubble Beam, nothing happens, and the poison is going to start doing some serious damage to us soon. After that, we're going to go for a Feint Attack, doing about 60% as it goes for an Absorb, doing a decent amount of damage to us, activating our Berry. And with one more Feint Attack, we can then take it down. This leads back into Nindos. And we can outspeed it, going for a Feint Attack, getting it way down into the red as an Absorb does a bit of damage to us, healing him back up. Misty then uses a Super Potion, and we can go for a Feint Attack, getting it down quite low. And one more takes it down, and Clamps just barely holds on. Okay, I swear I picked Balanced in the randomizer, but on Route 5 we grab a Kling Klang. Over on Route 6 we get a 2-for-1 with Espa. In Vermilion City we fish up this pony. In Diglett's Cave we're going to grab ourselves a Rotom. And on Route 11 we grab a Psyduck. We're going to take our Espeon and fuse it up with Brexian to get ourselves Epskin. Next, we're going to fuse out Combuskin with Kling Klang to get ourselves this little clockwork chicken. Over on the SSN, we run into Rando once again, who brags about catching over 40 different types of Pokemon. But I only see 4 strapped to your belt, Rando. Why are you lying? Quibblush comes in first, and we send in Fearin, who's going to go for a Psybeam right away, KOing this fish. Next up is going to come Aegitus, who is absolutely adorable. And going for a Psybeam does a bit of damage as this thing sets up a Swords Dance. After that, it goes for a King Shield because it's a giant jerk, and we can go for an Ember, which gets blocked. And going for an Ember after that takes it down. Next up comes Ninegong, who I can't believe is already fully evolved, but we're going to swap Fearin out and send in Clamps instead, as it decides to go for a Confuse Ray. And after punching ourselves in the face successfully, it tries to go for another Confuse Ray because I don't think it knows how moves work. And after I punch myself again, it keeps on going for Confuse Ray. And I'm doing quite a bit of damage to myself as this thing goes for a Flamethrower, which is going to activate our Berry. After that, it follows up with a quick attack, scoring a crit, but we finally break through the confusion, doing about 50% with a bubble beam. And then we're going to snap out of it, going for another bubble beam, bringing it way down into the red as we get confused again. Assuming he's going to heal up, I'm going to swap out Clamps and instead send in Happy to get the Intimidate off on this thing, and Rando does indeed heal up. It then sets up a safeguard, and we go for a Leech Seed, so that way we can start sucking up a little bit of health here, as a Flamethrower does some decent damage, and we go for a Bite. And after taking a quick attack, one more Bite and Leech Seed, take down the 9-Gong. Which leads into Skip Runt, who apparently defied the randomizer by not getting a custom sprite, and after avoiding a Poison Powder, we're going to go for a couple of bites on this thing as it then fires off a Bullet Seed. And after getting me down to about 50%, one more bite takes it down, and we defeat Rando. And now it's going to be time for us to take on Lieutenant Surge, the Lightning American, and his dragon Pokemon. Torch 2 comes in first, and we send in Bolt Break. And this thing is going to go for a Fire Spin, which is going to lock us in, doing a bit of damage, and we can go for a Dragon Tail, getting it down to about a third, knocking it out, and then sending in Silph. That's no good. Oh man. Alright, let's send in Clamps. And we're going to go for a Confuse Ray on this thing, and it breaks through, going for Dragon Breath. We can then go for an Assurance, doing a lot of damage to this thing, getting it down quite low as it then heals up with a Citrus Berry. And it breaks through the confusion and goes for another Dragon Breath. And then Lieutenant Surge swaps out and then sends in Torch 2 instead, who we can go for an Assurance on, KOing it. And then Banish comes in after that, who is absolutely adorable, and we're going to get it down quite low as it sets up a Focus Energy just to go down on the following turn. Now Silph is going to come back in where another Assurance can take it out, and we just lost our second Pokemon. On Route 9, we're going to grab an Anorith. On Route 10, we're going to grab a Coughing. And in the Power Plant, we're going to grab a Porygon 2. To start filling our party up a little bit, we are going to fuse Bulbasaur with Coughing to get ourselves Bulbafing, who is eventually going to evolve into Venizing once we get to the level cap. We get a weird phone call from Rando to meet him over in Pokemon Tower. When we ask him why he wanted to meet up in a Pokemon graveyard, he lets us know that this place will be our grave, which seems really weird, and he sends in Crestpuff. And we're immediately going to swap out a Cuckoo and send in Clamps. And he goes for a Mist. On the following turn, I'm going to go for an Assurance, getting him down to about a third as he sets up a Safeguard. And with one more Assurance, assuredly, this thing goes down. Next up comes Galvanogle. And I forget all about the Safeguard, so I can't confuse it. And my ability gets suppressed, whatever that means, and this thing decides to go for a Fury Cutter instead of something useful, like maybe an electric move. And then he heals up on the following turn, so that way we can make sure the Fury Cutter doesn't stack any damage, and one more Assurance takes it down. Next up comes Dortortle. And I love that it looks like this dude is like singing, and an Assurance takes it down, which is going to lead into 9-Gong. And now that the Safeguard is gone, we can go for a Confuse Ray, and this thing goes for a Safeguard. And after punching itself in the face, we're going to go for a Screech to try to set up a little bit on that side of the field, and then an Assurance scores a massive hit, grabbing the KO. And Clamps is surprisingly effective here. After the battle, Rando apologizes for trying to end our lives and promises he probably won't do it again. And then, on the other side of the room, we hear a crash and some screaming, and I turn around to see what it is, before turning back to see Rando standing there, getting ready to bonk me on the head with a rock. Not now, Rando. There's no time for bonking. We have to check out that sound. And after heading over to the other side of the room, we find that Team Rocket has taken this old guy hostage. And who exactly is this old guy? I have no idea. But before I can figure out who they are, the Team Rocket grunts bring him upstairs. When I tell Rando we should probably follow those Team Rocket grunts up the stairs, he tells us that he really has to go to the bathroom and races off. On Route 8, we're going to grab an Omastar. And on 7, we grab a Meloetta? What are some of these encounters? And over in the game corner, our Scyther's been randomized into a Kabutops. And on 16, we get a 2-for-1 with a Holnix. On our way over to the Celadon gym, we run into Rando beating up a couple of Rocket Grunts with our unfused Gyarados I didn't even know he had. He then lets us know that apparently that old guy we saw getting kidnapped over in Pokemon Tower is named Mr. Fuji, and he's the renowned scientist who works for Silph Co, who created the Master Ball. So Team Rocket must be after Master Balls, and they've got to be stopped. Because just like their triple fusion technology, if Team Rocket's working on something, it's probably bad. But before we can head into the Maw of Madness, which is Team Rocket's super secret underground base hidden in the Celadon city sewers, Rando says he needs to use the bathroom and races off once again, pronouncing "smell you later." I'm pretty sure I smell you now, Rando. And in the sewers, we're gonna grab a Rock. And after fighting our way through Team Rocket's super secret sewer base, we find Giovanni, and apparently he's already beaten up the local gym leader, Erika. So I guess if somebody's gonna have to save the city, it's gonna be us. Giovanni starts off by sending in Ala Odo when we send in Happy, who's gonna go for a Psycho Cut right away, and thank goodness we're not fighting yet, and an Ice Fang is gonna do quite a bit of damage as Giovanni swaps out his Pokemon, sending in Slowag instead. Look how absolutely freaking precious you are. After taking a Water Pulse, we can go for a Seed Bomb, picking up the KO, which is gonna lead into Rhydom, who's gonna go for a Drill Run, which we can resist, and I'm gonna go for a Seed Bomb doing about 60%. And on the following turn, he's gonna go for a Bulldoze, but joke's on you, buddy. I'm already slow as hell, and one more Seed Bomb takes it down. The bird's gonna come back in and go for another Psycho Cut instead of something useful like maybe Gust or Wing Attack. And after we heal up with our Citrus Berry, one more Mighty Ice Fang. Sit down, and we defeat Giovanni with the power of happiness. And now it's time for us to take on Erika and our Fighty Fight Boys. Barzikin comes in first, and we send in Fearin. I love that he's like threatening us with this leak. Anyways, we're gonna go for a Psybeam and grab ourselves the Yoko, which leads into Hitmarade, who is an absolutely precious fusion. But unfortunately, that also makes it quad weak to Psychic, which leads into Stanchamp. And you, sir, are no bite choke, but you do manage to hold on with like literally nothing healing up with the Citrus Berry, and luckily you miss your takedown, which means one more Psybeam from our little elf fox takes it down, and we defeat Erika. After fighting our way to the top of Pokemon Tower, we find the renowned scientist Mr. Fuji. After being tickle-tortured for like 3 hours, Mr. Fuji told Team Rocket everything they needed to know. And their next stop is Saffron City, where they plan on taking over the entire city in addition to the Silph Co building, until Mr. Silph President gives them what they want, and he gives us a flute. With the level cap being raised, we have a bunch of evolutions to do, so first we're gonna have Happy evolve into Garanot. Next up to evolve is going to be Cuckoo, who evolves into Klingsikin. And finally Fearin, who's going to ascend as well, becoming S-Fox. Over on Route 12, we're gonna play this flute for a sleeping bear and dance around a bit. And when it wakes up and attacks, it reveals to be a palm tree. Next on Route 15, we can grab a Munchlax. In the Safari Zone, we grab a Magmortar. And now it's time for us to take on Koga and his Rock Hard Boys. Koga starts off by sending in Lobuskin, which is a hilarious name, and this thing is a monster. Anywho, I'm gonna go for a double kick with Cuckoo and take it down in just one. Next up comes Pseudonons, and once again we can go for a double kick, doing a decent amount of damage as it goes for a Rock Tomb, lowering my crappy speed. After that, a Rock Slide does some decent damage, but this Ekans goes down, leading into Lilligan, who goes for a Brind, and we can go for a Gear Grind, grabbing ourselves the Yoko. His final Pokemon, Regiwood, comes in, and this Goldango fusion is absolutely amazing. But we kick it twice and it goes down. And with that, Cuckoo solos Koga. Wanting to fill up the last slot in our party, we're going to fuse up Luxray with Torterra to become Foray. And I want to make one more adjustment to the party, so we're going to take Blastoise and Omastar and fuse them together to get ourselves Omastoise. And I love that this is just like a prehistoric looking Blastoise. It's an excellent design. After saving everybody in Silph Co, we run into Rando again, who saw the commotion outside and decided he would play Mr. Hero and come in to save everybody. But apparently we already saved them, which enrages Rando so much he reaches for the brick he was gonna bonk us with in Pokemon Tower. And I say, Rando, stay your hand. There is villainy afoot here. We must work together. But before Rando will work with me, he needs to fight against me. Rando starts off with Rivoire and we send an Ulta. This thing goes for a Thundershock, doing barely anything, and I'm going to throw a bunch of sludge at it, doing a massive amount of damage. On the following turn, it goes for a Thunderbolt to do a bit more, and we take it down. Next up comes Gardevoir. And I love how casual this Muscle Mummy is. Anyways, we're going to swap out and send in Fearin as it goes for a Psychic. I'm then going to set up a Light Screen because I don't know what else it's going to go for, and it goes for a Future Sight. And we decide to go for a neutral Psychic, doing a good amount of damage as he sets up a Calm Mind. And with one more Psychic, we then take it down. Next up comes Fally. And I'm going to swap out into Clamps just in time for this thing to go for Confuse Ray. I'm then going to stay in and go for an Assurance, doing barely any damage to it. And then I'm going to snap out of Confusion and go for a Screech on it. After that, it decides to go for a Power Gem instead of maybe like an Electric move, and we can go for an Assurance, getting it down quite low as another Confuse Ray comes in. And I'm going to swap out again, this time sending in Cuckoo, as he decides to go for another Confuse Ray. Unfortunately, we don't punch ourselves in the face and instead kick this thing in the face, grabbing the KO, which leads into a Double Fuse Hawlucha. Like, excuse you, bro, and he decides to go for a bounce, and then I punch myself in the face. After that, the bounce fortunately misses, and then we strike ourselves once more as it goes for an Endeavor. After that, I'm going to punch myself again, which is going to activate our Citrus Berry, which is a colossal waste of said berry, and he goes for a high jump kick, KOing Cuckoo. That was a terrible idea. So I guess I'll send in Shelter. Although I probably should have sent in Fearin, and this thing goes for another high jump kick, and it immediately KOs me. I forgot I was Rock type. Anyways, here's Fearin. And a third high jump kick comes in, doing a surprising amount of damage to me, and I can go for a Psychic, grabbing the Oko, which is what I should have done in the first place. Anyways, here's Nine Gong. I'm going to stay in and go for a Morning Sun, and it goes for a Flamethrower, scoring a crit because it's rude, and then we're going to heal up after getting quick attacked. And then one more time as it sets up a Safeguard. It then goes for another quick attack, and we can go for a Light Screen. After that, I'm going to fire up a Psychic, scoring a massive hit on this thing, getting it down into the red, and with one more, we can take it down. And I just lost 2 more Pokemon because I'm a silly Billy. But we did defeat Rando. And after defeating Rando, he agrees, we'll help together. He puts down the bonking brick and extends his hand to shake mine. Together, there's nothing that we can't do. Together, Rando and I bust into Mr. President's office, where Giovanni's interrogating him about Master Balls. He needs 3, but he appears to only have 1. Mr. President then lets Giovanni know that there's only ever been 1 Master Ball, because nobody should have that much power in the palm of their hands. Giovanni steps in close to Mr. President, pushes him up against the wall, and does that thing that people do at cons when they're pushing the people up against the wall. And he says, "How about now, Mr. President?" And Mr. President produces 2 more Master Balls from his suit jacket pocket. I said no one should have that power in the palm of their hands, but they can have it inside of their jackets. Oh! I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. I've done like 50 of these runs. I start to run out of things to say. Anyways, we bust into the office, and now we're going to face off against Giovanni in a double battle. Eddie Gio starts off with Beersa and Octobro, which is a fantastic name and an even more fantastic veiny arm, and we send in Rivoire and Ulta. Rivoire goes for a Thundershock on Beersa, but he probably should have Thundershocked the other thing, and I go for a Thunderbolt, doing about 60% as Beersa does a massive takedown. Holy smokes! And then Octobro goes for a Ring Out, doing quite a bit of damage to me as well. After that, Daddy Gio's going to use his first Max Potion, and then Rivoire remembers who we're supposed to be attacking, and once we double into Octobro, we get him down wicked low, but Beersa does a takedown, well, taking it down. Next up comes Flaily. Giovanni is then going to swap out Octobro and send in Mugar, and we can go for a Thunderbolt, doing, well, barely anything. Then a Confuse Ray on Mugar is going to do some silly stuff, and then a Hammer Arm on Flaily takes it down, and this tiny little bear is absolutely destroying us. And here comes Gardevoir. After the Mugar strikes itself in the face, Ulta is going to go for a Leech Seed, because I got to do something here. And Gardevoir goes for a Psychic on this abomination known as Beersa, and a Thrash on Gardevoir does a lot of damage, and maybe she should stop standing so casually and take this fight more seriously. Mugar snaps out of confusion and then goes for a gunk shot, and I'm pretty sure Gardechamp's gonna go down to that. And then I might as well finish off this teddy bear because it is proven to be a giant pain in the neck. After that, Octobro is gonna come back in, and then the double fuse Hawlucha comes in as well. Hawlucha goes for a Feather Dance because we all know how much of a physical attacker a Gengar is, and I guess it kind of is here because it goes for a Gunk Shot once again, and it does basically nothing, and then a Thunderbolt finishes off the Octobro. His final Pokemon, Kyuchu, comes in and sets up a Drizzle. And it's too bad my Shelter got destroyed, and a high jump kick on Kyuchu does a lot of damage as Mugar goes for a Sludge Wave this time, getting Kyuchu down a little bit more and getting the poison off, which is hilarious. And now Hawlucha's super low as this thing goes for an Origin Pulse, which knocks me down super low. And I flinch. But the poison takes it down, leading into Nangong. I swap out Ulta, and then I'm going to send in the Clamps instead as Mugar goes for another Sludge Wave, doing a bit of damage to our side of the field, and a Flamethrower doesn't even have the decency to KO, but fortunately Leech Seed does. And with that, we take care of Giovanni. With Team Rocket defeated and 3 Master Balls in hand, he decides it's about time for them to blast off, and we'll see them again real soon. And for saving everyone in Silph Co, we get a Horsey. And now it's time for us to take on Sabrina and her ghastly ghouls. Sabrina starts off by setting in a Dust Slash, and we send in Ulta. I'm gonna go for a Toxic on the first turn, and this thing goes for a Hex, doing a decent amount of damage to us. After that, I miss a Leech Seed as another Hex comes in, doing some more damage to us. After that, I'll throw some Sludge on it, doing effectively nothing as it then decides to go for a Confuse Ray. So we're going to swap out, and I'm going to send in Clamps as it goes for a Will-O-Wisp, which is very frustrating. And assuming another Hex, I'm going to swap out and send in Tori, getting the Intimidate off on this thing as Sabrina uses a Max Potion. We're then going to go for a Wood Hammer and take down the Dust Slash. Next up comes Erika, who is going to go for a Revelation Dance, getting me down just below half, and I can go for an Earthquake, scoring a decent hit. I'm then going to swap out and then send in Ulta instead as it goes for another Revelation Dance. After missing an Air Slash, we can then go for a Leech Seed, and thank goodness it missed. After that, Sabrina uses her second Max Potion, and we can go for a Thunderbolt, and now we're going to get healed up a bit more between our Black Sludge and a Leech Seed. After that, an Air Slash does a crap ton of damage because I'm Grass, you silly goose, and I get flinched. So we're going to swap out to Ulta, and I'm going to send in Clamps instead as it goes for another Air Slash. And we can scoop up a bit more healing because of the Leech Seed. After that, this thing's going to go for a Revelation Dance, which does not really any damage to us, and we can go for an Assurance, finishing it off. We will get knocked down low enough for our berry to go up, and then Bangrowth comes in, who doesn't even have the decency to have a custom sprite. And I'm going to go for a Confuse Ray on this thing because it is going to be a physical monster. After that, I'm going to go for a Screech because I need to kind of figure out what I want to do here as it launches a Shadow Ball, doing some chip damage to us. So we're going to swap out, and I'm going to send in Ulta, and thankfully it punches itself in the face. And since it's Grass type, we can go for a Sludge Bomb, doing a good amount of damage and getting the poison off, which is fantastic. And it also punches itself in the face, which is even better. And with that, the poison takes down Bangrowth. Her final Pokemon, Cofacot, comes in. We're then going to go for a Sludge Bomb on the Cofacot, doing about 50%, and then we also get some poison off, which is fantastic. After that, it's going to go for a Power Split, and we can go for one more Sludge Bomb, taking Cofacot down. And with that, we defeat Sabrina. Over on 21, we can get a 2-for-1 with Tentacruel. Over on Cinnabar Island, Absol's been randomized into a Togepi. And why is it only on level 10? Oh, apparently that Togepi was in the flowers. Absol has been randomized into a Xatu, but I already caught Togepi. And in Pokemon Mansion, we can grab ourselves a Wigglytuff. Needing to rebuild our party, we are going to fuse Empoleon up with Meloetta, and the result is this absolutely adorable Empoetta. And as much as I love this base sprite, this alternative sprite with her as a magician summoning these bubble fusions to fight with her is a 10 out of 10. Next up, we're going to fuse Haxorus with Charizard, and the result is going to be Charxorus. And of course I have to go with this custom sprite. And now it's time for us to take on Blaine and his poison Pokemon. Blaine starts off with Pidplume, and we are going to send in Fearin. On the first turn, we're going to go for a Psychic right away, taking the Pidplume down. Which leads into Tyranzing, who is wicked and fortunately is Rock type, so we can take it down in one shot as well. Next up comes Arcuno. And it is amazing just how much 2 letters does, and a Psychic takes down this big bird as well. His final Pokemon, Suigar, comes in, and I absolutely love this thing, and unfortunately I get flinched, and then it's going to follow up with an Aurora Beam, where we can go for a Psychic, getting it down wicked low, and getting the special defense drop, so that's fantastic, because when Blaine goes to heal up with a full restore, now with the boost, we take it down. And with that, we defeat Blaine. Before facing off against Zapmolcuno, I hate to do this, but we're going to fuse Meganium up with Porygon Z to give ourselves this guy. After fighting our way through Mount Ember, we run into Team Rocket, who apparently not only has managed to capture all 3 Cantonian legendary birds, but Giovanni's triple fusion project is now complete. And with the 3 Kanto birds fused together, he's created Zapmolcuno, the most powerful Pokemon that gets to attack 3 times per round. But only when Giovanni's controlling it, which is definitely cheating. So I guess it's gonna be up to us to stop Giovanni and the rest of Team Rocket before he takes over the entirety of the Kanto region. So Giovanni sends in Zapmolcuno, and we send in Porygon, who I forgot to nickname. I'm sorry, little buddy. And with an electric gem boosted discharge, let's see what we do, and the answer is not a lot. But we do get the paralysis off on Articuno, which is fantastic. But unfortunately, it's not enough to save Porygon. Sorry, buddy. So it's time to send in our backup plan, Ulta. And even though I wanted to save Ulta for the rest of the game, I don't really have a choice here. And we go for an explosion. And I still don't kill any of them? Are you serious? Alright, we're in a bad way, but let's send in Fearin. And we're gonna go for a Psychic on Zapdos, taking it down right away. After that, Moltres is gonna set up a safeguard, and Articuno can go for an Ice Beam, doing honestly more than it should. And then we can go for a Psychic, finishing off Articuno. After that, Moltres sets up a Tailwind, and that's fine, because all it does is go for a Flamethrower, and we can KO it with Psychic. And I wasted 2 Pokemon there. I probably should have fed them some vitamins first. But with Giovanni and Zapmolcuno defeated, the 3 birds defuse and go back to where they're supposed to be, except Moltres, because she's already home. And speaking of going home, Giovanni's gonna go home and cry to his mommy. And let's see if Moltres is worth using our Master Ball on. Ooh, Latios. Yes, please. And in Mount Ember proper, we're gonna grab a Golett. Now heading over to the power plant, let's see what Zapdos turned into. Deoxys! Lots of Psychic Pokemon. And next up is Articuno, who has been also randomized into Latios. And for our normal encounter on Seafoam Island, we're going to grab Galvantula. And hopefully I don't regret this, but I don't want to fuse up anybody until I finish up our encounters, so let's take on Giovanni and his fighty fight boys with only 4 Pokemon. Hilltop comes in first, and we send in Empoetta. And this was immediately a bad idea, so let's swap out Empoetta, who I forgot to name, and we'll send in Tori, getting the Intimidate off as this thing tries to go for a Thunder. It then connects with a Thunder on the following turn, doing effectively nothing, and we can go for an Earthquake, doing effectively something. Giovanni then uses this first full restore, and we can go for another Earthquake, getting him down low again. Now Daddy Gio's gonna keep on healing up until he's eventually going to run out of full restores, or I scored a crit. And I just rolled higher. So Halchu comes up now. Who's gonna go for a Feather Dance, which is less than ideal, and I go for an Earthquake, doing about half. He's then gonna swap out and send in Hypmalode, and I'm pretty sure he's an electric trainer, not a fighting trainer. And 2 more Earthquakes take down this big ball. Halchu comes back out again, going for another Feather Dance, and now that we're at -4, I should probably swap out, and I get him down really low. He then goes for an Endeavor, because he's a massive jerk, and we can finish him off. Which leads into Runape. And I'm going to throw it out there, Ron is electric type too. They are 4 electric fighting types, and it goes for an ominous wind. He then follows up going for a hex, getting me way down into the red, and let's see if a spoon boosted psychic's enough, and it is. So, see you later, Ron. His final Pokemon, Drift Choke, is here. And even though he's not electric, he is summoning the power of the clouds, and we're going to swap out into Empoeta as he goes for a Shadow Ball. We're then going to go for a Drill Peck using our massive beak, doing 50%. And then a Shadow Ball is going to come in, doing a bit of damage to us. And after we heal up with our Citrus Berry, one more Drill Peck doesn't do it, excuse us! And a Shadow Ball is going to get me down to just 35. But we don't roll low this time. See you later, buddy. Oh no, Aftermath! KO's my most powerful Pokemon. You have got to be kidding me. On Route 26, we're going to grab a Beware. On Victory Road, we're going to grab a Haunter. And Entei's been randomized into Genesect. We need to completely rebuild our team here, so we're going to take Swampert and Volcarona and fuse the two of them together to get this awesome beard, Volcapert. Next up is going to be Greninja fusing up with Nidoking to get ourselves this Nido Ninja. Next up, we're going to fuse Kingdra and Sceptile to get ourselves this Schnoz. And finally, we are going to fuse Genesect up with Infernape. And I absolutely love Geninape. And I can't remember what this is a reference to. If somebody can let me know in the comments down below, but I'm going to stick with the original. Alright everybody, with our team set, let's take one quick look before we face off against the Elite Four. First up, we have here in the S-Fox with Psychic, Mystical Fire, Light Screen, and Morning Sun. Big the Chexorus with Dragon Claw, Dragon Dance, Shadow Claw, and Fire Punch. Geki the King Tile with Leaf Blade, Earthquake, Dragon Dance, and Night Slash. Beardo the Volcapert with Surf, Ice Beam, Quiver Dance, and Bug Buzz. Blasty Kong the Genape with Flamethrower, Thunderbolt, Close Combat, and Calm Mind. And finally, Glenn the Nido Ninja with Poison Jab, Earthquake, Night Slash, and Substitute. And first up is going to be Lorelei and her ice Pokemon in total defiance of the randomizer. Glacier Magius comes in and we send in Beardo. And we need to swap out right away, and we do, sending in Blasty Kong. It's going to go for a Blizzard, doing a lot of damage to us, holy smokes, and we can heal up with our berry, but now we're frozen. So let's swap out again, and this time send in Fearin as it goes for a Mirror Coat. We're going to set up a Light Screen, and it's going to go for Last Resort. And now we're going to go for a super effective Mystical Fire, taking it down in 1. Next out comes Pylox, who is absolutely precious, and going for a Mystical Fire, we can take it down in 1 as well. Next up comes Landvile, who is absolutely adorable and goes for a takedown for some reason. We go for another Mystical Fire, which isn't super effective, but that's okay, and then we're going to go for a Psychic on the following turn before Lorelei heals up. Now going for another Psychic, we score a crit, getting it down to like literally nothing, and one more can take it down. Next up comes Glacial Nucleus, and I'm going to go for another Mystical Fire, getting it way down into the red. And it's going to try to go for a Last Resort for some reason, and now we can go for another Mystical Fire, taking it out. Magnerim comes in as her final Pokemon, and this thing is wicked, but it's also wicked weak to fire, so it goes down too. And we defeat Lorelei. And now it's going to be time for us to take on Bruno and his rock-hard electric Pokemon. Leaf Co comes in first, and this thing is majestic, and we send in Beardo. It's going to go for a Sunny Day, which is really nice. I like when it's nice outside, and we're going to go for a Quiver Dance and then go for a second one. And I assumed this thing had Chlorophyll, but clearly not, as it goes for a Last Resort. Why do all these Pokemon... Oh, they're all Eevee, where they have Last Resort. Anyways, now we're at +3, and it goes for a Leaf Blade missing. And we can then go for a Bug Buzz, scoring ourselves the KO. Next out comes Empafisk. And I dislike this thing for so many reasons, but we're going to go for a Bug Buzz, getting it down super low as it goes for a Mist. Bruno then heals up with his first full restore, and we can go for another Bug Buzz, rolling a little bit higher, and after we do another 2 Bug Buzzes, we can take it down. Which leads into Hipchew, who's a really cool dude. And we can go for another Bug Buzz, taking it out. Blastle's up after this. And I'm going to get this guy super wet, and he's super dead. His final Pokemon, Zapsaur, comes in, who I've gotta say is one heck of a guy. And we go for a Surf, getting it down pretty low, but we don't get the KO as it goes for an Ancient Power. But with another Bug Buzz, it goes down. And with that, we defeat Bruno. But we don't talk about that very much. And now it's time for us to take on Agatha and her dragon dudes. Dragagrigus comes in first, and we send in Geki. I go for a Dragon Dance to set up as it misses a Dragon Tail, but after I stack up a second one, I get knocked out. So let's try this again. With Big In, I'm going to go for a Dragon Dance once again as it goes for a Safeguard. And I should probably not stay in, but whatever, we're going to go for a Dragon Claw, and I don't KO it as a Dragon Rush scores a massive hit on me. Knowing she's going to heal up, I'm going to go for one more Dragon Dance. And now at +2 with Dragon Claw KOs. Next out comes Lagon. And we're going to go for a +2 Dragon Claw, taking it down, which leads into Giovanni. And going for another Dragon Claw, we can quickly take it out, leading into Aleagon, who is absolutely adorable, but it goes down in one shot. Her final Pokemon, Oranair, comes in, and we're going to go for one more mighty Dragon Claw. Taking it down, and we're taking on Lance next. And now it's time for us to take on Lance and his mythical ice Pokemon. Uracil comes in first. It sounds a lot like Duracell, but looks a lot like Yogi. And that one is definitely a quote last special. But anyways, Blasty's gonna go for a Flamethrower, getting it down quite low as it goes for a Scary Face. After that, he's gonna go for a Full Restore, and I'm gonna go for a Combine. As our speed gets lowered even more, I'm gonna get up to +2. A Slash does some decent damage, and we grab the Oko, leading into Mamarok, who is wicked, by the way, and a Blizzard does barely any damage to us, and we can go for a Flamethrower, doing about 50%. After that, Lance is going to use a Full Restore for some reason, and I'm going to go for a Close Combat, grabbing ourselves the Oko. Next up comes Glape, and I love this thing, and it goes for a Crunch, doing basically nothing to us, and then we can heal up with our Berry as I unleash the power of Flamethrower, getting rid of this angry hockey player, which leads into Regisaur, who misses the Zap Cannon, fortunately, and I can go for a Flamethrower, doing about 60%. After that, it's going to go for an Ice Beam, but we're still at +1, even after the Close Combat, so we can take it down pretty easily. Which leads into Artiswine, who is a silly little fella who decides to go for a Freeze Dry. But since we're still at +1, it doesn't do a lot, but I do get frozen. So let's swap out and send in Fearin instead, as it goes for an Agility. Artiswine are known for how fast they are, and this thing goes for another Freeze Dry, and we can go for a Mystical Fire, grabbing a pretty big hit on it. It's then going to go for one more Freeze Dry, doing a bit of damage to us, but one more Mystical Fire KOs, and we defeat Lance. As we enter the Champion's Chamber, we find Rando, who has become the Pokemon League champion. But here is where Rando reveals his secret. He didn't actually beat any of the Elite Four members. He just snuck up on each and every one of them and bonked him in the head with that same rock he's been carrying around since Pokemon Tower. And if we think we can take this championship away from him, well, we better get ready to say hi to Rocky. Rando starts off by sending in Pidgeon, and we send in Glenn. A lot of evolutions going on here. It sets up a Tailwind, which is kind of a pain in the neck, and we're going to go for a Substitute. After that, he goes for a Wing Attack, doing a good amount of damage and destroying our Substitute, as I do about 50% with a Poison Jab. After that, another Wing Attack does some decent damage, but we managed to get the Poison point off, which is cool, and I can go for one more Poison Jab, getting him down low enough so that way the Poison takes it down. Next out comes Prime Slash, who goes for a Final Gambit? Really, dude? That's a dick move. So I'm going to go ahead and send in Fearin, and Rando's going to send in Charlade. And going for a Psychic, we can score a massive critical hit and grab the KO, which leads into Kangaskhan, which is fantastic. And it goes for a Sucker Punch, doing about 50% to me, but we can go for a Mystical Fire, grabbing a huge hit on it. After that, Rando uses a Full Restore, and we're going to go for a Morning Sun. And after going for another Mystical Fire, we can take it down way into the red as it goes for a Reversal, which is going to do next to nothing to us. Rando then uses the full restore, and we can go for another Mystical Fire, dropping it down to the red again, as he then heals up a third time. And after using his fourth full restore, he still has one more, but we score a crit, and it goes down, which leads into Ampaswine. And this thing looks really surprised. And we're going to go for a Psychic, doing just over 50%, and this thing goes for a Discharge, getting me down to about half. But what's even more surprising is that Rando didn't use his fifth full restore. And Ninegong comes in, his final Pokemon. And we're going to go for a Psychic, doing just under 50%, as this thing sets up a Safeguard. Now going for another Psychic, we can drop it way down into the red as it goes for a Confuse Ray. It then goes for a Quick Attack, because I feel like this thing hasn't learned any new moves in a very long time, and we knock ourselves down into the red. But we're going to swap out Incendin Geki, as the Ninegong goes for another Quick Attack. And Geki punches the ground, summoning an Earthquake, destroying Ninegong. And with that, we've become the Pokemon League champions. In that, everybody, is how I beat a hardcore randomized Nuzlocke of Pokemon Infinite Fusion, the fan game with over 251,000 different Pokemon combinations, using only starter Pokemon. If you liked the video, the sound of my voice, and you made it this far, and you're not subscribed, what are you doing? Hit that button. Come on, you know that you want to. I do a new video just about every week, so let me know in the comments down below what other types of fusion runs, or just other games in general, you'd like to see. But anyways, I'll catch you all in the next video. See you later.